Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Hey, everyone, all set, cocked, locked, here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us today. We are broadcasting 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you'd like to listen, you can listen on your phone. There's a telephone listen line, which is up, and it's 712-770-9418, 712-770-9418. And Jason is engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. If you've heard broadcasts talk about how this is a lie, a sham, a hoax, a fraud, their term BS, I'd love to hear from you. And you may call us and just give us a capsule of what you've heard people say on the air. I'm talking about broadcasters, not callers, but broadcasters. What have they been saying about my term is Corona panic? And that number again, 866-582-9933. Rich Scheben's with us, and Rick will be back next week. Welcome, Rich Scheben.
Well, thank you, Vince. Yeah, we're in pretty crazy times economically. Safety reasons regarding health. There's a lot of deceptions out there. And, to me, it basically points to a direction, Vince, that we've been talking about for so many years, which is trying to become a little more self-sufficient, move to the country, move to rural areas, relearn those lost 19th century skills, not giving up 21st century technology, but start thinking outside the box, growing your own food, raising your own animals, possibly living off grid. We've taught our youth how to push buttons and manage paper and be politically correct, while the government public schools are socially and politically indoctrinating our youth while giving them no skill sets and lots of debt. So who knows if I know people are listening. I know in the last 9 to 12 months has been a massive wake-up. But the powers that be, they keep throwing things at the patriots. And President Trump, Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 impeach, impeach, impeach. And now this. And who knows if the powers that be, when you have an addiction to power, money, and control, are they ever going to give it up? I think one of the things we should talk about today, Vince, is a little economic 101 updates, but more importantly, talk about the deceptions on how the hierarchy at every level, from unions to the Fed to the big corporate oligarchies, and how they're really basically getting all the bailouts while the little people suffer less purchasing power of money because of all these bailouts going to all these people. So I think we should talk about that. I think I've talked till I'm blue in the face about stock buybacks. I can talk for a couple minutes on that. But just to show that the little people, we're getting the rhetoric, the propaganda, the hoaxes, the lies, while the elite at the top hierarchical levels are getting bailouts for malinvestment. Vince?
Okay, so talking about economics, class, of course, we're talking about the Corona panic. So here is an example of what's happening in economics. During normal circumstances, the New York City's subway system picks up about 5.5 million people each weekday. And because of the corona panic, the ridership, if you want to call it that, is down by, well, it's down by 4.8 million riders. So it's down 4.8 million riders. So the city is going to slash, or actually has slashed, commuter rail services by at least 25%. Another way to look at it is ridership is down 87% as compared to the same day last year. So there'll be fewer subway trains running. Why is that? Because there's fewer riders. Makes sense, right? Gerald Celente said something kind of interesting. He's been on this broadcast many times over the years. He's pretty well known in the financial world. He says, never in history of the world has the whole world, or most of the world, been shut down by politicians destroying people's lives and their businesses. People are going to go bankrupt. You're going to see suicide rates increase. You're going to see crime escalate and people overdosing on drugs because of depression. It's going to be worse than the Great Depression. It's going to be the greatest depression. Let's see. He says we're going to go from dirty cash to digital trash. That's pretty much a done deal, right? And he says that they're destroying the global economy. They're destroying people's lives. We're going to see crime levels that are unimaginable. Why do you think people are going out and getting guns? Then you're going to see these liberals talking about gun confiscation. Crime is going to escalate, and the deaths are going to go through the roof. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. He's been quoted as saying that for a long, long time. Let me say it again. When people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. What he means is they lose their minds and go crazy. Okay? You're going to see gangs like never before. On the other end, open border issue, that's a closed story. They're closing borders all over the world. So you're not going to hear people say, let them in, that's over. That's what he's saying. And then he says something that I disagree with. And he says, I agree with Trump. We should go back to business as usual. Now, I disagree with that. My position is we need to stay locked down and save people's lives versus saving the economy. It's going to be very difficult to do both. And we can see that the market, the Dow Jones, is collapsing day after day after day because of the lockdown. I don't know any other way of doing it. That's what we're doing here. At the farm, we are locked down because that's the only way we can protect ourselves. An example, a really simple example, is Frito-Lay. They had to shut down because someone in their food processing environment is positive for coronavirus. So if that person has it, the virus would be on the food, theoretically. And that's another thing you need to think about. And that's something that Rich Scheben has been saying for as long as I've known him. You need to grow your own garden. Because how would you like to buy a prepackaged item that's already got the coronavirus baked in? Yeah, that's figurative. Rich Scheben, your thoughts about that?
Well, yeah, it's coronavirus. It could be glyphosate. It could be estrogen mimickers. You heard me talk about that. And I would like to, since you brought that up, and let's get back to the economy after I'm done here. There's I'm noticing a few people that I know who are getting what's called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's an autoimmune form of hyperthyroidism that involves the production of autoimmune thyroid antibiotics, seen 20% more in women than men, but the fact that men are still getting it, and this Hashimoto's thyroiditis starts from hyperthyroidism, and we all know that our thyroids are going south because people aren't taking enough iodine. And it develops due to prolonged exposure to excess estrogen. So people with this hypothyroid both overproduce estrogen and cannot detoxify it, causing it to accumulate in their body. So this estrogen accumulates in the tissue and not in the blood, so it can't be tested through a blood test. So these estrogen levels in this disease can be as 50 times higher than in normal individuals. And I'm running into people who are getting this. I don't know what, even if you talk to the NIH, FDA, the CDC, you're never going to get truth anymore for any government organization, so it's hard to know what to believe. But a lot of these foods, even natural foods, soybeans, soy products, sesame seeds, wheat, barley, rye, oats, a lot of our products like shampoos contain these pseudoestrogens. So, I think we're getting to the point where moving rural and having your own garden, maybe raising your own animals, maybe doing a little hunting and fishing is so important. I mean, even getting away from 5G and your cell phones and the smart meters, which have been associated with ill effects. Our bodies can only take so much. We're being polluted chemically, biologically, and technologically. Now, I know we're heading into a break real soon, but to talk about, shift gears here about the economy, since you kind of started there. The average bear market, a lot of people, it all depends on who you read, okay? The average person is saying we're in a bear market and we're possibly, most likely, in a recession. And a lot of people, like Gerald Celente, is saying that we are heading towards the worst depression ever. Now, just to put it in perspective, the average bear market, folks, lasts a year and a half, 18 months. Now, I've talked about Economic 101 updates and everything, the whole phony derivative market, the hedge funds, the inflation, deflation, stagflation. I've talked about all this. And it's pretty obvious, Vince, that we are in a deflationary, stagflationary environment. But debt is deflationary by nature, and we have a lot of debt, corporate debt, household debt, government debt. Now, the Fed is buying right now corporate, municipal, and treasury debt, so that means they're monetizing debt. Debt is basically money, but unfortunately a lot of our corporations, which are rated as triple B, are probably going to go to junk. Now, keep in mind, too, rating agencies are more influenced by the corporations paying a little money under the table than reality. And 40% of the S&P are zombie companies, which means if they sold every asset they have, they cannot get out of debt. So we're seeing more defaults, more bankruptcies, more delinquencies, all the things that I've been saying. So as they increase or decrease money supply, we get more defaults, bankruptcies, and delinquencies. Now you're saying, Rich, they're not decreasing money supply. They're printing like a bunch of drunken sailors. Well, they are. But if we don't have an increase in velocity of money, that means there is not an increase in consumer confidence. So people are going to basically save as much of that money and not spend it, because there's no confidence in the corporate oligarchies and the too big, too corrupt governments. So when you don't have confidence, you don't have spending. What they need to do, instead of just giving away so-called cash, is have vouchers for spending with an expiration date on it, so people can go out and spend it in a certain amount of time and not save it. And we will be back right after the break, folks, but I want to talk about some of the deceptions.
Sure, hold on. And David will be with us in Illinois. Rich Stevens with us, and David in Illinois is calling in. Welcome, David.
Hey, how you doing? I don't have a catchy phrase as much as Gwyneth does, though. I had to apologize for Mr. Scheben. He usually seems to get on a roll, and I try not to call when he's going. But you brought up, asked about other people and other shows. Now, I've
Yes.
been listening to other shows. I actually heard a broadcaster compare this fake outbreak with the fake Chernobyl incident. And he said people need to suck it up, shut their mouths, get out there just like Chernobyl. They should have just took them 50 feet away from the facility and had them dig and start planting crops with their hands. And I couldn't believe I would say such a stupid thing. And the same guy, I tried to find out who he is because a week later he said, look, this is just like brain surgery. The only reason people die from brain surgery is because they forced them to use rubber gloves. The body can fight off bacteria if it gets in the body, fine. There's no reason by having all these regulations, and he contributed to regulations with the rubber gloves, the same thing as this nonsense we're dealing with today. And the people are listening to him. They're calling up, and I wanted to debate it, but more than likely they won't let me on there, I imagine, or keep me on there very long because I'm just surprised of the attitude.
David, well, let me ask you this. Is this on one of the larger alternative radio networks, or is this just some podcast somewhere?
No. This is on one of the networks off TalkStream Live
Wow.
that I listen to on there. I mean,
Okay.
you've actually been on there before.
Well,
I would like to ask this one question. I would like to ask this one question to these individuals. If they are so believing that this is just a simple common cold and you'll fight it off, if they come down sick, are they going to guarantee they're not going to be asking for one of those ventilators? They're just going to ride it out at home like they're telling everybody else to. That's what I like to.
That's a very good question, David. And I was hoping that you would call in, and I knew you would. And I thought that you listened to a number of broadcasts, and you make your own decisions. Class, the reason I asked if there's anyone who has listened to other broadcasts, what are the other broadcasters saying? Because a guy called me. Well, did he call me? Yeah, I think he did. And it's about it's almost 3 weeks now. So a little over 2 weeks ago, he said this thing's going to blow over in 3 weeks. So I wrote on my calendar, put it on the kitchen refrigerator, that this is going to blow over in 3 weeks. So I'm probably going to call him and say it's 3 weeks. And it's gotten infinitely worse. And I think I'm going to lose some friends over this. I think I already have lost some friends over this because my position is unchanged. This is absolutely, positively real. And saying that it's a fake, it's a fraud, it's a hoax is going to, in my opinion, get some people killed. Because if they believe people on the radio who they listen to, and they say things as you have just said they've said, it's really dangerous, extremely dangerous. Now, my position has always been, and it's never changed on the corona panic. My position is very simple. It's real. And I believe it's a biological weapon. Now, I can't prove that. But I believe this is absolutely real. I believe people are dying. I believe people are being infected. And regardless of the number of people who die from it, and that's something they talk about, people die anyway. So what's the big deal about, this little thing that's like a cold? Even Rush Limbaugh said it's no more dangerous than a common cold. I'm paraphrasing him. I had to take him to task, too, because I totally disagree with that. What's happening is this is really infectious, and the number of cases seems to double about every 3 days or 3.4 days, maybe even somewhere between 3 and 4 days. And just because a person doesn't die from it, doesn't mean that person isn't violently ill. It doesn't mean that person hasn't been permanently damaged as a result of this. So why are we playing around with this? And I object to that. And I was thinking, and this is a very dangerous thing for me to say, but I don't know if I want to be associated with people on a network that say that this is not real. We'll be right back. David, please hold on. We're talking about disinformation, bad information, and confusing information about the corona panic. Rich Scheben's with us, and David in Illinois is with us, both instructors. David, I'd like you to share a little bit more about what others are saying. And I want to just make this very clear to our class. Here's how strong my position is on the truth. I have distanced myself, literally, I have removed myself and USA Prepares from a couple outlets. networks, if you will, that would carry our broadcast in a repeat mode. So it originates on Genesis Communications Network, and there are USA Prepares, and I've been on 2 other networks. And I distanced myself from both of them because I did not like their message. It never happens in radio, except for us, I believe, because broadcasters want a greater and greater and greater audience. That's the plan, right? And I did just the opposite because I did not want to be associated with people whose message I did not agree with. So the truth still reigns here at USA Prepares. David, please continue with any other thoughts that you have about this particular subject.
Yes, I do listen to a lot. I mean, I listen to 4 or 5 different shows at a time. In other words, my mind will get bored. But I have went back to try to listen to that station. I wasn't going to listen to it anymore, but I've been wanting to try to see about getting on there to see if they'll let me find out why they think that way. Did you see the reports about the cruise ships where they went back and tested the cruise ships 17 days after the corona patients were removed, and it's still showing up? It's all over the ship still?
Yes.
Yes, I have. Yep.
And how long?
Yes,
that'd be a great way to study it, by leaving it there to see how long it does sit on the surfaces. I don't think they'll do that.
Here's something else that's very interesting about that. So cruise ships are out in the ocean, right? Or in the Gulf, right? Or in the bay, right? Salt water. Salt water is a disinfectant. And it seems like it's still surviving after 17 days. So I was talking with a package delivery guy. And I was talking to him about the corona panic, and is he concerned? And he said, well, by the time he gets the packages, they've been sitting for a day or 12 hours. So he feels relatively secure. You're saying that it stays on the surface for 17 days. Rich Scheben is, and I am too, because that's what we have learned. So a word to the wise, if you're going to get a package delivered, whether it be by Amazon, UPS, United States Postal Service, regardless of how it comes to you, I think you ought to put it in the sun or leave it in the sun. Use gloves, face mask, put it in the sun, make sure the sun gets on all sides of it for at least half a day each side so that the UV of the sun can disinfect that package, and then open it outside, not inside your home or your business, if your business is still up and running. I suggest you think about that. David, any more thoughts?
Yes. One other thing I didn't know. Now, we brought up this discussion quite a while ago on your show about if something happens in California, my concern was that people were going to flee. I was listening to another show where they were interviewing truckers were calling in that are delivering supplies. And when they're coming out of California, the roads are packed with people filled up with cars leaving California. So they're not stopping them.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to bring it everywhere else.
And I'm sure Rich Scheben has seen these articles as well, that people who have, we'll call them summer homes or vacation homes, and they live in the city and they make the big money in the city. And then, when a couple weeks a year, they may go out, or a couple days a year, and go out to their vacation home. Now they're fleeing the cities to move back into their vacation home. And the locals where these vacation homes are livid. They don't want these people invading them. Now, it used to be that bring us your money, bring us your tourism, bring us your trash. That was okay. Now it's not okay.
I read an article, you guys, where the super wealthy go into the Hamptons right now to get away from the masses of people, and that's exactly what's happening. But let me share a couple of articles with you. Let me just chime in here real quick, and I think, there's a lot of information we don't know because of the deception, the corruption, the manipulation, the deceit. But here's an article right here. 21 million Chinese cell phone users disappear in 3 months of pandemic. So I have 2 questions. Is that because they're tired of being tracked, or are they sick there's a lot of information. Here's another article. China, it is innocent, says the UN and the World Health Organization, who happens to get a ton of money from China. And we've discredited the UN many times on this show. So that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of information we're not, and this is why I dig real deep. Here's some more information about the coronavirus. New York doctor has remarkable results with HCQ, 500 patients, 0 hospitalizations. This is very disturbing to show the agendas of the powers that be. Basically, it's about fascism, totalitarianism, tyranny, and basically the elimination of the freedoms, liberties, and rights of the American people. Eric Garcetti, I believe he's the Los Angeles mayor, has threatened if you don't close up shop, if you don't do what you're supposed to, he's going to cut off your water and power. Now, this is kind of USSR, Pol Pot, Hitler-type stuff. Next article, Nevada governor bans using HCQ to treat coronavirus. It almost seems like the people on the left, the Democrats, the deep state, the establishment, whatever you want to call them, is rooting for the coronavirus over the American people. And another article which basically shows that the mainstream media is trying to create rifts and divide and conquer strategies between Dr. Fauci and the administration. Here's a very interesting article. Iceland scientists find 40 mutations in the virus. Now, Vince, you mentioned just a few moments ago, and we've confirmed this through a lot of different articles, that this is indeed a geoengineered man-made bioweapon. And that's one of the main reasons we're telling people to get out of urban, suburban areas and possibly live rural. And here's one last article on this, and I'll let you guys comment on what I just said. China just sent 150,000 test kits to Prague, the Czech Republic, and 80% of them didn't work. They're giving false positives. So is this incompetence, or is this a way to create more hype and hysteria, destroy economies, and create more fascist, tyrannical dictatorships? Vince?
Okay, well, I have to say that if I were the mayor of Los Angeles, I would do the same thing. With my understanding of this corona panic and the deaths and the infection rate and the costs, it's incumbent upon everybody to not transmit it. The twerkers of the spring break, I mean, they spread it. There's no question they spread it. They have confirmed cases. They have been infected. They infected each other. Here's an article from Springfield, Missouri. So Missouri gets locked down, or Springfield, Missouri, and Greene County get locked down tonight at midnight. And there are 227 cases, confirmed cases of coronavirus in Missouri, 18 cases in Greene County, where Springfield is. On Sunday, and we reported this before, on Sunday, March 15th, case number 18 visited Black Sheep Burgers in a downtown location, and I've been there. I was invited there once. I went there once. It wasn't very good, in my opinion. I would never go again, but, a couple of years ago, I was there for a short time. Then visited the Blue Room Comedy Club. So patient, or case number 18, went to this burger joint, then went to a comedy club. That was Sunday. Monday, the next day, this case number 18 visited Caesar's Old Mexico, then Walmart Neighborhood Market on Sunshine. Now, Sunshine is a major drag in Springfield, Missouri. Then the next day, case number 18 visited the Walmart Neighborhood Market on Glenstone. Now, our meetups used to be at the intersection of Sunshine and Glenstone every Friday night. So I've been to those places. So this guy or gal traveled and infected a whole bunch of people. And as a result, Springfield, Missouri shuts down tonight, except for essential movement. Now, it's really interesting what essential movement is. Essential movement allows medical marijuana stores to stay open. Isn't that amazing? Farming is considered essential movement. So if I need to get some parts to repair a tractor to keep producing food, I can do that according to this order. But Springfield, Missouri and Greene County, Missouri shut down tonight. And that's just right now about almost half of the world's 7.8 billion with a B people are locked down. Half. It's really just 3 billion. Well, almost half. Can you imagine that? Almost half of the world is locked down. In my world, if this thing is spreading the way it's reported to be spreading, I would want it locked down as well. And if people were using city utilities like electricity and water, and they refused to limit their risky behavior, I'd shut their water off and I'd shut their electricity off as well. David, you have a comment?
I never thought of that. It'd be a great idea.
Well, it's something that Adolf Hitler might have done. And, okay, so does that mean it's bad because he might have done it? Not to me. Not to me. What you have to look at is the individual situation. And right. If the twerkers are on there were do not cross police yellow tape at the beaches in Florida. And these twerkers are just lifting it up and going right under the do not cross. They've been ordered. It's visible. It's clear. Don't go into the beach. But yet they were going into the beach. And they were gathering in large numbers. And they were defying the order. They were reckless. They were careless. Now, I don't care if they kill themselves. I really don't. I mean, it's messy for us, the rest of us, to clean it up. But if they want to do that and not infect the rest of us, fine. But if they cause problems for the rest of us, I have a problem with that. I don't want them infecting other people because of their careless and reckless attitude. You got a comment, Dave?
I was going to mention about the thing with the beachers and everyone else in the U.S., how they're tracking, using the cell phones to track the temperatures of everybody going up. And it's all over the country. It's all over the country.
Yeah, so if you're wearing that Fitbit, you're just telling everybody whether you got it or not or whether you have a fever. We'll be right back. Class, the corona panic has become quite contentious. And I believe that in families there is arguing, yelling, screaming all over the world. And what I mean is I believe that young people who have been told by their parents, look, don't go out, please don't go out because you may bring that stuff home. We don't know who the people whom you're seeing have been with. We don't know. We don't know about how careful they are. Please don't go out. And then the young people say, this is all in my mind, right? I believe this. What about my friends? I have a right to be happy. I have a right to go out. You can't make me stay home. Now, here at the farm, I've done exactly that. I've taken those very strong measures. I've discussed it with the family. And we talk about even how we're going to get the mail at the end of the road, or whether we would go to the post office. And the answer is, we're not. If the bills are late, so what? So what? Mrs. Finelli was busy working on taxes, and after the broadcast, I went in and I saw her and said, so what are you doing? So I'm getting ready for taxes. I said, why would you do that? Let's not do that. Forget it. Who cares? Who cares? Because people are not going to be paying, they're going to skip paying their mortgages. They're going to skip paying their rent. It's going to be worldwide. There's a collapse coming. It's big. Taxes are irrelevant, in my opinion. Rich Scheben, do you have any comments on any of the things that I or David have just said?
Well, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, obviously. I personally had done my taxes. I just got to sign it and put it in the mail. And, I'm trying to go on with life. Can you just hold on for just 1 second? I just wanted to make sure our class understands my
my feeling about taxes. I pay our taxes. We do. However, I believe that the best time to send in your taxes is at the last minute of the last hour of the last day that it's due. Because I know that the government is gearing up for people who do exactly that, and I don't want to disappoint them. So I want mine to be in with the rush of everybody else's, all at the same time. And I don't want to let them down. So I always file at the last minute of the last hour of the last day. And normally that's April 15th. But now it's 90 days. Now it's 90 days extended. So I'm going to wait 90 days, and I don't want to disappoint them. I just wanted to share that with the class.
Yeah, so anyway, I with all the articles I've mentioned, with all the research we've done, Vince, that there's so much proof that this is a bioengineered, man-made bioweapon. And the timing of the coincidences is just, from Russia to Ukraine to impeachment to this to that, with no evidence. And, it's just so obvious that there's people behind the scenes who have an addiction to power, money, and control. And we've talked about how, I've mentioned Henry Kissinger, Bill Gates, the royal family from England. I've mentioned other names who actually are calling for depopulation. So can we prove that this is absolutely some type of plot against the people? 100%? No. But are these coincidences adding up? Yes. And this is one of the reasons why we talk about, I think it's so important. Too many people talk about social and political stuff. We need to talk about financial, economic, social, and political stuff equally. We need to have equal knowledge. And we have to, do something about it. We, not just talk about it. Maybe live off grid, have a garden, live rural. All these things that we've been talking about for years, building skill sets, especially with our youth. I run into a lot of young people. I know the millennials get a bad rap, but they often brag about the technological skill, but yet they don't want to live off grid, which is technology and electronics. There's so many things that we need to do, and we've lost the protege-mentor relationship in America. We have teachers teaching theory and not practical experience. There's so many things that need to change because too many people are manufacturing their perception of their own self-importance and self-preservation, especially in government. And we need to get past that. We need to think about what's best for Americans, and especially the little people, where the bottom 93% not only does not get representation, but the whole system is geared to foment hate and divide and conquer against one another. As long as we have this system, we will not learn from our mistakes and get better for it. And that's part of what I've been talking about for years regarding lowering the bars of standards and expectations for getting a job. This is metastasized into every form of American life.
David, would you like to share with us the broadcast that you heard that Chernobyl was faked and the coronavirus is a fake?
I tick everybody off anyway, so I might as well.
Okay. Do you want to say it now, or do you want to hold through the break?
I can hold. I have a question to ask Rick when we get back. Okay.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Rich Scheben will be back. Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. And we've been talking about the Corona panic. We've been talking about some economics regarding the Corona panic. I've got some more information. I know Rich Scheben does as well. David is with us in Illinois, and I'd love to hear if you want to share it, David. You mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, that a broadcast said that Chernobyl was fake and the coronavirus is fake. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
He actually stated they should have just took the people 50 feet away from the nuclear power plant site and start digging crops and planting crops even by hand and sucked it up, And I was like, oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to say where you heard that? Where you heard that, and maybe when?
Yeah, it was on RBN, and it was March 8th at about 8 26 in the evening. So it would have been about that. So that's when I shut it off.
Who was the broadcaster? Do you know?
I'm trying to find the name of the broadcaster. That's one thing, I'm not good with names. I got to see a face for me to remember a name. That's my problem.
Okay, so
I've heard him before. He's the same broadcaster that said the reason people die from brain surgery is because the regulations make the doctors wear rubber gloves. They would be fine if they didn't wear the gloves, but it's because of regulations.
David, if you'd like, on Monday, Dr. Norm Shuley is with us. Dr. Shuley is a brain surgeon.
I wanted to ask him that.
he's done. He was Surgeon of the Year. He's about 87 years old, and he's been with me the longest of any other instructor. And I'd love it if you would call in and ask that question of him.
I know a lot about medical. I did have to learn a lot of it in college, but I've been around that all my life. So I just couldn't believe this guy and would say such a thing. People believed him.
All right. Well, that's the point. That's why I asked, what you all have heard. Because, class, I've got to tell you, I've met some famous broadcasters, well-known broadcasters, and they put their pants on the same way that others do. Some of them have researchers that provide them, material to spout behind the, from the microphone. So I've said, don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything that you hear. Verify it for yourself. And I mean it. And I really mean it because other people say stupid things on the air. And it frosts me because just because someone has a microphone, it's really easy to have a microphone today. You don't even need a microphone. All you need is a computer with a built-in microphone. All you need is a notebook or a laptop, and you can be a broadcaster. Seriously, there's 750,000 podcasts going on. 750,000. Now, are all these people educated in the fields of which they are speaking? I hardly think so. Now, on this broadcast, when I talk about the things that I say I do, I've done them. And I can speak about them because I've done them. It's not that I read about it and said, here's what y'all ought to do because I read this, or act like I've done it. I have actually done it. So that's the difference, a major difference between USA Prepares and other broadcasts. When Rich Scheben is on and you talk about the pharmaceutical world, he's quite knowledgeable in that because he was a pharmaceutical rep. When you talk about living off grid, he can tell you about living off grid because he lives off grid. That's what he does. He's got a farm. Gwyneth has a farm. We're not making this up. But other broadcasts I can't speak for.
You won't hear me call up and say how great you guys are. I won't do that because that to me is not I will give you my respect because you did it. You learned it. You work. That's what you do. Everybody does. So, that to me is more important, respect. Not to say how great people are. I'm not going to do that. I don't believe.
I appreciate that. I really do. And class, David has become an instructor. David would call in and make some comments, and I really liked what he had to say. And so I got his contact number, I called him up, we talked off the air, and he's become an instructor. And he listens to a lot of what is being said. And he is a news hound. And he connects the dots.
I also still get old dear Pops' information. I don't know why I still get it, but at least I got some good news. People that we know are finally, after a year later, are getting our messages. They're like, why are we, it took us a year to get your message. I guess with all this, the federal government is leaving me alone for a while,
Well, they're busy. They're busy staying home, acting like they're doing some work and they're getting paid to stay home. I wanted to read something, David and Rich Scheben. This is from a website that if you were to type in bulk, B-U-L-K, ammo, A-M-M-O, it's one of the search results that you'll find. Now, I've been saying for months, I've stopped saying it recently because I don't think you can do this anymore. It's very difficult. I've been saying got 22s, got 22s, got 22s. I've been trying to tell people make sure you're tanked up with your ammo and your handguns. And we've done broadcasts about that. Well, if you go to one of these websites, I'm going to read what it says. And there are different categories for handgun ammunition. 25 ACP, 357 Magnum, 357 SIG, 38 Special, 40 Smith & Wesson, 44 Magnum, 45 ACP, etc. 9mm. Well, I just happened to click on 223. Quote, 223 ammo is one of the most popular rounds among American shooters today. Unfortunately, we currently don't have any products in stock in this category. However, while you're visiting us, please sign up for our newsletter below, and where you'll find out about exclusive deals and products and new products from blank. And that would be this website. Now, that's 223. Now, if you type in, let's see, 357 Magnum, let's see what happens. Oh, you can buy it. They have 10 rounds of 38 Special. It's only in shot shell, which means like convert your 357 Magnum into a shotgun, okay, with little tiny pellets. $1.48 per shot, $14.75 for a pack of 10. I'm telling you, ammo is in very, very short supply. Yes?
They had some long guns at my store left, and the local store, and I went to, they had a good price on them, so I went to try to get a bolt action 22 Magnum, and some guy came in and bought them all. He had FFL, and he bought them all. So I tried to see if they had a left-handed one. I didn't think nobody would buy that, but no, they're all gone too. Because I could shoot either hand, so, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, they're all gone. He bought them all. He just bought them all.
And there was some guy, Rich, maybe you can comment on this. Some guy went into a supermarket and filled up shopping carts with every piece of meat they had, whether it was cryovac type sealed, whether it was local wrapped and packed, whether it was tubes from a regional packing house. Bought it all, was really proud of it, went on the internet, said, look at me. I bought it all of it. And now he's receiving death threats. Rich, even you want to comment on that?
Well, it's part of the panic buying. It's part of, we've been talking about prepping for years. We've been talking about being self-sufficient for years, and this is where you can dovetail into economics and talk about, how they're printing money like hand over fist, and then you're going to have more money chasing less goods, which is going to inflate the price of necessities for the little people. And I've talked about this forever. It's just like, in Pelosi's bill, Nancy Pelosi, she included $300 million for illegal immigrants and refugees. Well, I've talked about the inflation chart for years where the cost shifting goes to the little people. So whether it be education, anything to do with schools or colleges or health care, car insurance, basically, especially even loans to the college kids. It's backed by taxpayers 10 years ago. Back 10 years ago, banks were forced to lend to students, and now it enriches the colleges without accountability and enslaves the students. And, we have so much corruption and manipulation from the big government to the oligarchies, and we don't have free market supply and demand, which is leading to product, services, freedoms, liberty being nationalized. And this is very dangerous. So we're losing control of our own destiny. We're allowing the elite hierarchy of every institution to run our lives, and we have to get back to thinking again. And this is why I always say we need to think for ourselves, and we can only do that by reading and research. David, just like you were talking about this guy, saying that you shouldn't wear plastic rubber gloves when you do surgeries, and Chernobyl was a fake. You got to remember, a lot of people are paid to manufacture perception, pity, guilt, ideology, divide and conquer strategies. People are paid, and we don't know who they are, under the table, back doors, to give false information, to discredit and delegitimize. It could be the alternative media, it could be a certain group. It doesn't matter. But when they're paid to sway public opinion and hold on to the narratives, it's up to us as individuals to read research and verify what we read and see.
Yeah. Now, I've said this before since I started calling your show quite a while ago. My father and his friends for the federal government in law enforcement, they would always say, all they have to do is give the public a statement. Doesn't matter how stupid it is, doesn't matter how ridiculous, doesn't make sense, they don't care. Just tell them anything. And then that's it. And they would do that, and I would see them do that. And it would be amazing how some people would say, oh, okay. I'm like, this doesn't make a bit of sense, and you believe it?
Kind of like, I watched the news. Yeah, I heard it on the news, so it must be true. David, I'm at the Republic Broadcasting Network website, and there's an 8 a.m. and an 8 p.m. broadcast. PM. Okay. I wanted to make sure that the wrong person doesn't get credit.
Yeah.
So 8 p.m., it says The Trump Phenomenon with James Kelso.
I have to listen to the guy's voice. I'll go on there. I'll listen to it tonight and listen. Because I heard him again this last week, but my eyes, because of that stitch, I had a flare-up of pain, and I just could not look at the device to see what date and time it was because I was hurting too bad. I don't want
Okay, well, let's make sure that, the right person gets credit for that and others don't. So let's say that we don't know at this point who the broadcast was. So if you could call back tomorrow if you get a chance, that'd be great. Let us know.
I wanted to ask Rich something real quick. Have you heard the financial reports were there was estimated I don't know what the number is now, almost 1,500 or more CEOs stepping down, even Bill Gates. So that means they were getting their bonuses walking right before this and at the beginning of this. So did they know something and get out of the market and fill it up?
David, I will address that after the break because obviously we're running out of time for this segment.
Great question. Great question. Rich Scheben's with us, and he's the guy to ask. David asked the question, what about these CEOs who have resigned in mass? One of the biggest resignation stories ever of CEOs jumping ship just before the collapse. Bill Gates and a whole bunch of others. Rich Scheben, you're the guy.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of this is speculation because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But look how many of these people, there's articles left and right over the past few months about how they're making a ton of profit. And they've actually been in cahoots. It's just like the central banks. There's no independence. There's no sovereign nations. It's basically the elite, the aristocracy, managing the serfs and controlling them. It's a lot less left-right paradigm. There's so much evidence that the big guys have sold everything at the same time. It's kind of like paper contracts and naked shorts for precious metals like gold and silver. How do they keep prices suppressed? How come the banks don't go to jail for basically fixing gold, silver prices, LIBOR, VIX, all the things that we've talked about over the years. But who knows what kind of narrative that they want to hold. Maybe some of these guys are pedophiles, and they're trying to get out of town. Maybe they're pretending to get the virus so they can pretend to die, and they're in some hidden bunker or hidden island or New Zealand or something else. Who knows if they've been money laundering, caught paying off the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ? Or have they declassified the Clinton Foundation, found out a lot of these big CEOs have given money to the Clinton Foundation for pay-to-play and all their own personal favors? Is there proof that some of these companies have sold out to China over the American people? Absolutely. How about not sharing alternative energies, geoengineering, weather modification tools? Has there been depopulation strategies where 90% of our drugs have been coming from China and we've been poisoned with drugs and products? I can go on and on and on and on. Here's an analogous article right here. Left-wing professors are scared that what they say, whether it be online lectures or information that they write, will be shared by patriots. They call it right-wing sites, but it's patriots who love our country. That's what it is. So basically, the people are waking up. I gotta repeat myself here. The last 9 to 12 months has been a major wake-up. This is why I try to connect the dots. You have to talk equally, financial, economic, social, and political rationale. They need to be read and understood and researched equally so you can see where the money's going. That's what I've been doing for years. I've been sharing how we're being distracted, dumbed down, and divided by groups. I'm sharing how a lot of this corruption and manipulation is being, the money's being, and opportunity is being taken away through Keynesian economics, corrupt monetary policies from the central banks, our present demographic situation, and especially group identity politics, taking money from the bottom 93 and giving it to the elite. That's called free lunch. I've done hours of lecture on printing money out of thin air, on fractional reserve lending, on stock buybacks, where it only basically affects the elite instead of that money going to expansion and products and the debt that they have outstanding and services and research and development and people, employees, is going into the executive pockets. That's called free lunch, okay? And acquisitions and mergers. So they lay off more people and consolidate. So the rich get more money. That's called free lunch. Higher dividends. That's called free lunch. When you do share buybacks, there's less outstanding shares, so the share is worth more. It's called free lunch. It's executive cash at every level, from the corporations to big government. And that's what we're protecting. We're protecting these government workers who have been bought and paid for. Vince?
Okay, we've talked about doublespeak, we've talked about newspeak, and since you're so passionate about this, let's talk about this. So, Daily Mail says, quote, headlines, conservative commentator Glenn Beck, 56, says he would rather die than continue shutdown, and that over 50s, meaning people over 50, should work to keep the economy going because the country is dying. Continues on, radio host Glenn Beck, 56, suggested he would sacrifice himself for the U.S. economy. I'd rather die than kill the country, he said on Tuesday. His comments come after President Trump suggests lifting social distancing guidelines by mid-April. Now, I think that's crazy. And I'll tell you why when we come back, and I'd love to hear your comments. He's saying we, over 50, should go to work, even if we die. Okay, so this is where my blood starts to boil. So Glenn Beck's comments are very short-sighted. And think about it this way, class. So he's saying that, you know, if you're older, go back to work, because he doesn't want to see the country fall apart. Well, the country's going to fall apart. And we can't fix this. But he doesn't want to see it fall apart, so he wants older people to go back to work and risk dying. Now, these older people are the knowledge workers. They're the ones who know more than the young workers with whom they work. So the young people might fare better if they get the coronavirus. The older people are more susceptible to dying. So Glenn Beck is saying, well, y'all older people, you need to get out there and work to keep the economy working. But he's not thinking, I don't think, about the susceptibility and succumbing to the virus of older workers. So, who are the older workers? Well, they're the shop foremen. They're the engineers. They're the scientists. They know more than the young ones do, because the young ones haven't lived long enough to learn as much as the older ones. The older ones are the ones that the young people say, hey, Charlie, help me because I broke this. I don't know what to do. How do I fix it? And the older guy is thinking, wow, what an idiot. He broke it. He didn't have to break it. He just didn't know what he's doing. He's not paying attention. He's careless. He's reckless. And now we got to tell him how to fix it because the young people don't know how to fix it. Okay, so let me tell you about Glenn Beck. Expo number 1, around 2011. I was on the phone with Glenn Beck's people, and we thought he'd be a great keynote speaker for the expo. We had an area that had an outside venue, 8,000 seats for our expo. We thought he'd be all right. Well, Glenn Beck's people said, now Glenn doesn't charge, but he's got a charity. So if you want Glenn Beck's attention, you have to give to the charity. And then you can have Glenn Beck appear. Now, It's going to cost a $125,000 donation to the charity. Plus, you'll have to provide airfare, which is 2 pilots and a private jet. That's about $25,000. And he'll give you like an hour and a half. That's Glenn Beck. Now you know. Now you know.
All right,
Oliver North, $40,000. Gerald Salente, $15,000. Guess what? I said, hey, you know what? Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. And who was our keynote speaker? John Moore of Republic Broadcasting. There you have it. Yes, Rich.
Yeah. Well, let me comment on, you asked me before the break to comment on Glenn Beck's comments. So let me, I'm going to go off into a few tangents here, but I want to put it in context and have relevance because I want to talk about ideas and solutions that we've talked about on this show but never gets done. What has happened is we've allowed the powers that be to delegitimize work. And I've discussed this in great detail regarding group identity politics where they disrespect, degrade, and insult the work ethic, ability, and intelligence of people based on what group you're in to get the job and opportunity. This doesn't empower a nation or a group. It lowers the bars of standards and expectations to make us submissive and break our will. So that being said, it's destroying America by rewarding mediocrity and eliminating opportunity. So if we didn't have all this political correct mumbo-jumbo going around, we would not have an issue where he's saying we need to send the old people back to work because the young people would be towing the line. Now, I want to see what's happening with this HCQ. I want to see these new treatments, and I would like to see some downgrade of the virus and some proof that shows it's going to be curtailed before I start sending old people out to work. Now, that being said, just to prove how basically the powers that be want to delegitimize work, one of the things the Democrats wanted to pass in their latest bill was to pay more for unemployment insurance than actually working. Again, that's a great example of delegitimizing work. Now, some of the ideas we've talked about a gazillion times, this is chapter 17 in the book, is self-sufficiency preparedness schools. And I'm going to talk directly to President Trump here. You know, it's a shame that, you can insult the president and then have someone from the White House contact you, usually Secret Service, if you insult them or threaten them, but yet you don't get responses back for good ideas that help the people, especially the little people. All we're getting is propaganda, lies, false flags, and hoaxes. So what we really need to do, President Trump, is have self-sufficiency preparedness schools. If there's one government job that's actually worth something, it's going to be this. We can teach people about living off-grid, alternative energy, buying land, raising animals, hunting and fishing, canning, handgun defense, constitution. We have no knowledge, especially with our young people, regarding financial counseling and economy. No knowledge. And all these people getting sick, why are they getting sick? Because of nutrition. They don't even know how to harvest edible and medicinal plants anymore, which I do. We have lost so many of our proteins, our amino acids, and our enzymes have been modified. I've talked about this in specific detail. We need to go back to homeschooling, which is actually happening right now because of what's happening with this virus. Gardening and farming. I mean, these are skill sets and so much more that if we had the 90% of people, President Trump, come to these courses and learn from people who have been there, done it. Now, was born in Jamaica, Queens. We're both from Queens, and I lived in the metropolitan area of New York City for 26 years, and I've always wanted to live this way in the Northern Rockies, and I have been. I've been in Montana for 35 years. I'm not saying everybody has to do it, but just say if 90% of people live in urban, suburban America, and one-third of those people move to rural America with the self-sufficiency preparedness school to reteach those lost 19th century skills, but dovetail them with 21st century technology. If we had that decentralization, GDP and jobs would go through the roof. It would be a new way of life, outside-the-box thinking way of life, which is the true definition of diversity. not by skin pigmentation shade, not by sexual orientation, not by gender, not by religion. That is the true definition of diversity. If we did this, President Trump, I guarantee you the economy would come out of the slumps. Unemployment would come out of the slumps. Worker participation would come out of the slumps. We have eliminated opportunity based on victim group and protectionist group status, a.k.a. group identity politics. Why do you think the people who have done this to America calls it identity politics? So people can't connect the dots and figure it out. This is all planned divide and conquer strategy, and to lower the bars of standards and expectations for a job so people give up, they break their will, they lower their expectations. We create a country of a law of diminishing returns where very little has value, and this is where we're at right now. You can't just say we need jobs and fix it. We have to regain skill sets. We have to regain perceptions. We have to regain, we have to think differently. And we're letting political correctness and the things that should be said not be said, and it's making us more submissive and breaking our will. Well, that's what we need, President Trump. Please, if there's anybody in the White House listening, and I know there are, we need to get rid of a lot of these government workers. We don't need 75,000 people at the State Department. We don't need 38 million people directly or indirectly working for the federal government. We don't need the big corporate oligarchies and government employees to be bailed out. The bottom 93% is getting slaughtered, President Trump. We have to think differently. The old way of thinking is no longer going to work because we are now the corrupt, divided states of America. You inherited a fascist system. You inherited a system where people who are working by your side are literally doing sedition and treason and espionage to manufacture their own perception of self-importance and self-preservation. This is a system of commerce that cannot exist. That's why we're going in this direction. This is just a catalyst, this virus. If we had a legitimate commerce situation in America, the way America was built, by hard work, effort, proven results, and qualifications, this never would have happened. Everything is fake and phony. And I'm blue in the face talking about this, Vince, but this is what we need right now. We're desperate for it. And the powers that be do not want self-sufficiency. They do not want us thinking. They want us group thinking. They want us followers. And it's going to be a terrible catastrophe if the powers that be still maintain power. President Trump, you're giving too many positions to people with big names that even left you that you're bringing back for hire. Most of these people are bought and paid for, and they only think about themselves. It's time to hire American patriots, Mr. Trump. Vincent?
Sorry, hey, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm going to let you gentlemen go. My dogs are starting. I don't want to be rude and just get off the phone. So
I just had
thank
one
you very
quick,
much.
David, do you have like one more minute?
Sure.
Okay. Can you contrast? I was listening to Rich Scheben. I can't see that he's blue in the face, but I can certainly hear it. Can you contrast USA Prepares, what we do here, with other broadcasts?
Well, you don't seem to be afraid. You'll say what's on your mind. You'll say what you believe, no matter what the outcome is. But you give a lot of information. You try to help a lot of people, in my opinion, and what I've learned about. So many of the other ones, they will not. They're afraid to hit that sensitive subject area. They don't want to do it. Or if it's true and it's real and it's out there in everybody's face, you'll talk about it. I hope that's how I see it. And there's always a lot of knowledge.
I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate that. We don't have an axe to grind. We just want to say what's true and connect the dots. That's what we're doing, and that's what Rich Scheben's talking about. He's talking about what he sees. He's not mincing words, and neither do I. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate the fact that you don't mince words either, David. And that's one of the threads that runs through all of us here at USA Prepares. And by the way, class, USA Prepares is invitation only. Okay. What I'm saying is instructors demonstrate proven capabilities via audio. And when I hear it and when I like it, I invite them to be part of USA Prepares. It's not like hey y'all, we need some more dummies. I mean, we don't do that. We want the best of the best of the best. And that's all. It's as simple as that. Proven capability to delineate what you're trying to convey. It's as simple as that. And it's got to be truthful. And if I find out that there's lies, well, that pink slips go out. And it's real fast. Real fast. David, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for
really enjoy your
talk. All right.
Oh,
bye.
Absolutely. Thank you. That was David in Illinois. Rich Scheben and I will be right back. And I'm sure Rich has a bunch more comments about the corona panic. Rich Scheben's with us, and I just want to say something very quickly before Todd in Michigan goes on the air with us. 47,000 stores have closed. 47,000 stores have shut their doors in the United States in the last 10 days. And these are big, big names. And I was talking to one of our instructors, and I shared this on the air, that I believe that as people get laid off, they'll contact their landlords, whether it's a business landlord or a housing landlord, and they'll tell them, hey, listen, I want to pay the rent, but I can't pay that much. Well, that's happened with businesses. And businesses have said, listen, in exchange for a longer lease, we want to pay a lower amount in rent. And then a couple days later, they say, never mind. This is a mattress firm did this. Okay, 2,400 stores, 2,400 stores. So then they said, never mind. We're actually going to close our doors. Force majeure. We've used that word before. Force majeure is so bad with this coronavirus that it's going to force people to just stop paying rent of all kinds. Todd in Michigan, welcome. You're on with Rich Scheben.
Afternoon, almost anyway. Rich is going to get his wish, I believe. None of this corona panic makes any sense whatsoever. I've never had the cackles on the back of my neck stand up my entire life other than with this thing. And, if the virus doesn't get you, the GDP is going to get you, and it's all rolled up into something that I can't make any sense of. I haven't heard anybody make any sense of it.
Wait a minute. Wait. You don't think, Todd, you don't think USA Prepares is making sense of this?
No, I don't think anybody can. I mean,
what do you mean?
None of it makes any sense. The way they're handling it, the way the government's handling it, the way...
That's true. The government doesn't know what it's doing because President Trump said that he wanted us to restrict movement. And then he said, within a day, no, never mind. No, that's not a good idea. We need to go back to business. And then he said, well, you know what? I think I was right the first time. That's what's happened in the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
So if that's what you're talking about, if you're talking about these mixed messages, this doublespeak, this newspeak, and we said it was coming, and here it is. And the Queen, I believe the Queen has it. I believe the Queen has it. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention something I heard on Rentz's show with Joel Skousen last night. He's saying basically that the virus is no big deal. If you have compromised health, then, you're in trouble. But otherwise, it's no big deal.
All right. Do you believe that? Because I don't.
I don't believe it, no. I think he's Looney Tunes.
Okay. Well, the position that I've taken, and it's a very strong position, it's cost me some friends. My position is, if you don't think it's real, just look at the numbers. And if you think that it's like a cold, it's not like a cold. When people get sick, they say the pain is excruciating. And nobody even wants to get a cold. Really. Nobody wants to get a cold because it's no fun. But this is way worse, and it's more communicable. And people are dying like crazy.
Now they're turning the double speak around and calling it a flu virus, and it's not. It's a cold virus.
This thing...
Equate it with the flu.
There is no treatment for this. No treatment. And there is
that one guy that took him 2 hours to get to the bathroom, from the bed to the bathroom. He was in so much pain.
Right. And so my message, I'll just speak for myself. My message is be prudent. Take vitamins, minerals, supplements. Stay out of harm's way. Don't do anything reckless. Don't let your children go off and wander and then come back home from who knows where.
And use your
don't
UV
let them
lights.
do it. Yeah, ultraviolet C, but don't look at them because you'll get blind.
Oh, no, I already made that mistake.
Okay, don't do that. Yeah,
and real itchy eyes.
Well, it can get way worse than that in just seconds. So ultraviolet C will blind you. But
it's like 10 times greater than the sun.
Yeah, and you were told in elementary school, don't look at the sun, don't look at the sun, don't look at the sun. The point I'm trying to make is that it is absolutely crazy to put yourself in harm's way. Prince Charles did it. He put himself in harm's way. He had one of those wonderful dinners with all his buddies, and he got it. And then he met with his mom, and I really believe she has it. And now they are they're all in self-quarantine right now. I call that lockdown. I guess that's like the first Great Depression. They said we have to call it a depression because people are calling it a panic, and panic's a little too strong, so let's call it a depression. So we've heard that we might go into a recession. Oh, no. We are in the second Great Depression period in my world.
And real quick, the Walmart, if you're buying online, they've got you dialed in. They know what you've already bought, and they won't let you buy it if they figure you already have enough.
That's exactly right. You got enough, and just try to buy flour or yeast, class. No kidding. Cannot be done. Cannot be done.
And I own my first pistol. I'm 59 years old, and I bought a pistol Monday. That's how the shackles on the back of my neck are standing up.
What'd you get?
Mark III Ruger.
Okay, that's a 10. That's a 22. Okay, Rich Scheben, very quickly.
Well, we don't have any time, but I'm just going to end it with a little joke. I just got an email that says raw toilet paper for sale for $20, some assembly required.